Well, the Court of Appeals is finally righting a lower court wrong, not in any of the Trump trials, in the Alex Jones trial, but at the very least, it's a beginning, potentially, of the righting of the ship of the judiciary gone mad. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, and yes, I'm wearing a beret, but I tore off the female aspect of it. One of my kids might be a little bit pissed, but whatever. It helps keep the hair out of my eyes. Norm Pattis has a small W for the week. His 6-month suspension that was issued by that Connecticut court judge in the Alex Jones trial was just overturned by a Connecticut Court of Appeals, so I guess there's a little bit of justice from the initial injustice. From the Associated Press, court overturns suspension of Alex Jones' lawyer in Sandy Hook case that led to $1.4 billion judgment. Hartford, Connecticut, Associated Press. A Connecticut court on Thursday overturned a 6-month suspension given to a lawyer for conspiracy theorist Alex Jones for improperly giving Jones' Texas attorneys confidential documents, including medical records of relatives of victims of the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting. Now, first things first, don't you love how they have to smear Alex Jones in the initial paragraph? Yeah, it's good news for his attorney, but don't forget Alex Jones is a very, very bad man, a conspiracy theorist who's oddly enough been right more often than CNN. And don't you love how they suggest that what Norm Pattis did was deliberate, that he handed over confidential documents to counsel in Texas in the context of that multi-state defamation lawsuit? You had the Connecticut suit against Alex Jones. You had the Texas suit against Alex Jones. By the way, both of those cases resulted in default verdicts. There was no trial on the merits. Default verdict, and the only trial you had was on quantum, which resulted in an award of $1.4 billion in damages for purported defamation for some of the parents of the victims of Sandy Hook and some people who were not even victims of Sandy Hook. An FBI agent awarded $90 million on the basis that Alex Jones sicked an internet mob on him to harass him, on the basis that he was actually not an FBI agent, that he was just wearing clothing. Also from the Associated Press, Alex Jones ordered to pay $965 million for Sandy Hook lies. Now retired FBI agent William Aldenberg awarded $90 million, described the horror he saw at the school as he responded alongside other law enforcement, and his outrage at seeing online claims that he was an actor. All right, now back to the article and back to Norm Pattis having his license suspended by a Connecticut court judge for 6 months. By the description of the initial paragraph, you would think that Norm Pattis deliberately gave information that he knew not to give to the counsel in Texas, when in reality what actually happened was a total accident, that he didn't realize that he had given access to this information, and by the time he realized what had been done, well, the damage was already done in that the documentation was in fact communicated to counsel in Texas by way of a Dropbox or access to documents because of the volume of documents in there. But don't listen to me misdescribe what happened. I had Norm Pattis on the channel a few weeks ago. We actually talked about this. Here's how he described the incident.
Which case was it that landed you with the suspended license?
It was both. So we had a lot of data, and Jones was in bankruptcy court. Free Speech Systems, I think, was in bankruptcy court. We got a request from bankruptcy counsel for the file as to Free Speech Systems. It was urgent. We sent him the file, and in the file were records that the court had designated highly confidential, should only go to counsel of record. The court concludes that I erred in giving those to bankruptcy counsel because he was not counsel of record in the Connecticut case and he didn't need those records. Given the exigency of the circumstances, rather than cull through 1 million documents and whatnot, we gave it all to him. He then turned it over to Texas counsel, and one of Texas counsel's office staff mistakenly sent confidential records to the plaintiff's lawyers, who used them in a Perry Mason moment in the Texas case. The Connecticut judge read about that in the newspaper or heard about it on television. And rather than holding a normal disciplinary hearing, she did a show cause hearing requiring me to appear to defend my license. And as a result, I pled the Fifth Amendment because there are issues we were not talking about. And as a result of her findings, she recommended she imposed a 6-month suspension of my law license. That's on appeal. And, that's a difficult challenge. I'm going to have to, again, if any of your viewers want to contribute to the, suspended lawyer took a beating in the Proud Boys case lawyer, I'd appreciate it, because it's a difficult challenge.
So not to say that it was a mistake is the ultimate defense, not to say that some mistakes should not go unpunished. It was a mistake. It was a mistake of good faith, and it did not warrant much of a sanction, let alone a 6-month suspended license. He was suspended. Norm Pattis was suspended for 6 months by this judge, who clearly, as everybody who watched that trial knew, had clear animosity, clear bias, and clear prejudice against Alex Jones and Norm Pattis, and carried out her vengeance by way of this decision, which has been overturned by a court of appeal.
Because he doesn't want this jury thinking, oh, I was calling her an actress.
Objection.
I was only talking about Anderson Cooper, right?
Argumentative, attributing thoughts
I'm
to his
not
mind.
entertaining any objections, Attorney Pattis, unless you're standing up anymore.
I beg your pardon, Judge?
I said, I'm not going to entertain your objections unless you're on your feet. I said, I'm not going to entertain your objections unless you're on your feet.
I'm on my feet. Objection. Putting thoughts into Mr. Jones' mind.
Sidebar, please.
The state appellate court ruled that a judge incorrectly found that attorney Norm Pattis violated certain professional conduct rules and ordered a new hearing before a different judge on possible sanctions. The court, however, upheld other misconduct findings by the judge. Now, as at the time of shooting this vlog, I haven't been able to get the actual ruling to see what other misconduct the Court of Appeals ratified. The issue is not that Norm Pattis didn't make a mistake. There was another issue as well as to the counsel for Alex accidentally turning information over to the plaintiff's attorneys in violation of Alex's rights, and they were sanctioned for that as well. But bottom line, there's not an issue that they made a mistake here. The issue is that the judge, who is so clearly biased, so clearly aggressively biased against Alex Jones and Norm Pattis, issued a sanction that was so absurd, it finally got overturned. The trial judge, Barbara Bellis, suspended Pattis in January 2023, saying he failed to safeguard the family's sensitive records in violation of a court order which limited access to the documents to attorneys in the Connecticut case. She called his actions, unquote, abject failure, end quote, and, quote, inexcusable, end quote.
How dare you? How dare you?
Inexcusable. They accidentally, from what I understand, gave access to digital documents because of the sheer volume of the documents, and once they became aware of their mistake, they tried to remedy it. But to call it, quote, an abject failure and, quote, inexcusable is just to impose a burden on your adversaries that you would never impose on your own allies. Pattis had argued that there was no proof he violated any conduct rules and called the records release, unquote, innocent mistake, end quote. His suspension was put on hold during the appellate court review. Quote, I am grateful to the appellate court panel, end quote, Pattis said in a text message Thursday. Quote, the Jones courtroom was unlike any I have ever appeared in, end quote.
Putting thoughts into Mr. Jones' mind.
Sidebar, please.
Bellis and the state judicial branch declined to comment through a spokesperson. No crap, Bellis declined to comment because the ruling was unwarranted, unjustified, and irrational from the get-go, and thank goodness a court of appeal finally came to the right ruling. Hopefully they'll also come to the right ruling as relates to that $1.4 billion judgment against Alex Jones, rendered subsequent to a default verdict, $1.4 billion in damages following a trial only on quantum after Alex Jones had been wrongly defaulted. It is so wildly unjust what occurred that anybody who looked at it honestly would have to agree, and anybody who doesn't agree actually thinks Alex Jones had a legitimate trial. But if you think I'm biased and whitewashing Norm Pattis' inexcusable and abject failure of a mistake, just hear how the Associated Press themselves describes it. The Sandy Hook family's lawyers gave Pattis nearly 400,000 pages of documents as part of discovery in the Connecticut case, including about 4,000 pages that contained the family's medical records. Pattis' office sent an external hard drive containing the records to another Jones lawyer in Texas at that attorney's request. The Texas lawyer then shared it with another Jones attorney. The records were never publicly released. Yup, records accidentally shared among counsel because it was on a hard drive, and there were hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation, 4,000 of which were the protected information, not shared to the public. Bellis, that totally biased, that totally irrationally hateful judge, comes down and, of her own volition, comes down and suspends Norm Pattison's license for 6 months. Well, it's been a long slog for Norm Pattis, but at least there's been justice at the end of the day. The decision was wrong, the Court of Appeals righted it, and I guess now we can move on with our day, although the punishment is the process because they dragged Norm Pattis through hell to get that judgment overturned. So that is the news of the day. If you like what I do, you know what to do. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and whenever you see one of my videos come up, make sure to hit the thumbs up and drop a comment right away to stimulate that algorithm. Oh, that sounds really gross.
How dare you?
Viva Fry on Rumble, Viva Fry on Twitter, vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the best, most above average law community out there. Sunday night, Robert Barnes and myself kick some legal butt on our Sunday show. It's the bestest law show on the internet. You really should tune in. But more important than anything, exercise, eat healthy. Get out there, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
It turns out my daughter's not going to be angry. My wife is.
fine. But the dog ate it. Didn't I see it?
The dog did eat it. Yeah, the dog ate it. That's what happened. This video's over.